How do you assess how AI exposes your career? We're hearing a lot of noise out there with contradictory views about AI's impact on jobs. So, how can we assess this for ourselves as individuals using market insights, using research, and sound judgment on what the actual risk is and how do we assess it for ourselves? So, what is really happening? Hi, I'm Shujat Ahmed. I've spent years in tech, myth busting, executive decision making on talent, culture, and the future of work. And my goal here is to myth bust this confusion and move beyond that for us as individuals to assess where the actual risk is for our careers and what can we do about this. So let's go. This is a second video of a multi-part series around myth busting, around AI's impact on jobs and what can we do about our careers. Now, on this channel, I have a monthly podcast as well that I do with my co-host, where we focus on broader topics around leadership, culture, and the future of work. This series where I'm talking to you directly is one I do weekly. I plan to do this with a goal to myth bust for those who are going to get left behind by companies in this AI era. If you watch the first video, you can see it on my channel around AI's impact on jobs. So as a refresher, in the first video, I talked about a framework that I've used to whether it is business disruption, whether it was disruption in talent and during the pandemic, post-pandemic, thinking about AI, that has helped me figure out how do you address disruption. So the framework we talked about is asking 3 questions every time you're faced with disruption, and it works for AI as well. So you're asking, should I, could I, would I? Now, should I is what we covered in our first video, which is around what is happening with the jobs market, what is happening with the job losses that we're seeing. And we myth busted that, yes, well, the job market is bad, and the news we're hearing that AI is the one causing it is not right. It's a lot of hype out there with the AI media industry complex. I recommend checking that out, where you'll see a lot of data and research insights as well. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't worry about it. We should worry about it because there is so much momentum around this in this environment of uncertainty in the macroeconomic situation that whether we like it or not, AI agenda is going to be pushed, and that is where leaders are going to lean on. What could I do about this? Where is this headed? And where do I fit into this situation? And how do I stand out in this situation as well? That is what we're going to cover in this video. I'm going to do it in 2 parts. This could I part. We're going to today cover how to assess your exposure. And then the next part, we're going to get into, okay, so what are specific tactics that you can take on right now? So diving into the could I, can I do something about AI? There are 3 factors to assess that we're going to look at. Number one is, what is your domain's exposure to AI? Are you can see the exposure around you, or are you this guy in this figure who sees the exposure wearing the hazmat suit but is just standing very chilled? So what is your exposure right now? And either you have time or you got to act really quickly. Then there's a second factor. What is your company's plan for adopting AI? And this could be company or company that you're looking to get into, or the overall industry. How are they thinking about the AI adoption model? Because while your domain experience gives you the idea of the what's possible, it is how actually adoption happens inside companies and businesses is going to define you the probability for it, right? And then lastly, what is your uniqueness? What do you bring to the table? And then how can you use that to improve both the probability and the possibility for yourself? So we're going to first start diving into how do you assess what is your domain's exposure? So I'll go back to our primer that I discussed in detail in our last video as well, but I'll briefly touch it here. You think about your domain's exposure, you look at, there are 2 terms that you would have heard a lot: augmentation and automation. Automation is where AI does a lot of the tasks for you. These are tasks that are standardized, there's logic built into it. If you work a lot with like data, so numbers, images, voice, text, that is digitized, and that's key part of how you work. AI can take care of it. AI does the job for you. That's automation. Augmentation is where AI does some part of the job, but it's the human judgment that's required. It's the human skills intervention required to actually get that done. That is what we call that augmentation. And you'll hear this term that AI is augmenting you by doing some work for you. But automation is where AI does the entire work for you. And AI exposure, as I explained in my first video, and that is the basis that has been used for a lot of research and reports that you see out there. They look at how exposed are you, and that is based on the level of either you're on a high augmentation side of the spectrum or you're on a high automation side of the spectrum. To simplify this, I think about it in a three-part spectrum. First is informed. So if you think about augmentation, right now you're using ChatGPT, Claude or Perplexity to use AI to get some initial research done for you, get some information done for you, helps you inform you, use it as a coach maybe. Then there is assist, which is at the borderline between augmentation and automation, where AI does some work for you. It does some thinking for you, but not the entire thing. And you use it and then you add your judgment on top of it. And then last part is do, where AI does the work for you. It does those tasks for you, completely done by you, completely reliant on AI. That is the do part. Now, so with this established, how you take to do with this. So you look at your role, and we're going to get into details right now for different types of roles. You take these and understand, okay, where do I land for the majority of the work that I do or I aspire to do in terms of whatever your career plans are. This gives you an idea about, based on what you do, what your domain is, what is the possible AI impact on it. Now, remember, this is the worst of the AI that we have right now. So whatever you see right now is, okay, this is where we land, but where it's going to go in the future. One thing, for that, keep in mind, right, this is all about current jobs. So while there's augmentation and automation, and if you're in the augmentation part of this side, doesn't mean you're safe, because this is based on current jobs. There's a third dimension to this, which is you would have heard a lot of the term agentic. So I'm very clear around agentic, not necessarily agents, but agentic. And what that means is, you are, let's say, in a role right now that is you're using AI for augmenting yourself. Now, as agentic means that as the AI learns more with working with you, it's not a tool. It is more of a team member, joined in as a rookie, worked with you, learned the ropes, and then very quickly ramped up, tried to figure out, okay, how can it make the role better for you or even do that role? And what that means is a lot of the current jobs will start moving towards the part of the spectrum towards automation. So what is augmentation and form right now could quickly become assist as more services get created with AI, as AI becomes better. And for assist, it can start getting to even to the do part where AI just does it for you. And it basically is increasing the bar for what could actually be in the augmentation side of this. And what that means is that while jobs go away in the short term, or maybe the short term till the long term, it is new jobs get created and new jobs get redesigned. And new jobs might get redesigned right now based on where you are in the spectrum. So that is keeping in mind augmentation and automation. Take your role, take whatever you do right now and whatever you aspire to do, and start putting under these buckets. Where do you think, where is AI right now? We will, and if you are unable to do this, I'm going to walk through some examples as well. Now, with that established, that gives you an idea about what is the AI impact on what you do. This is going to make decision on where they can get most value right now, hit the numbers for themselves, business leaders, and not really care about, okay, what does that mean for your domain, right? There is a second dimension we look at when we look at AI's exposure. What you're seeing is in this framework, on the x-axis is AI's impact on what you do, which we just talked about. On one end, you have augmentation. The other end is more automation. And on the y-axis, what you see is, well, what's the perceived business value of what you do? And what I mean by that is in your industry, in your company, whatever you bring to the table, if that, whether that is in an augmentation play or an automation play, business leaders are going to see that if that is core part of how business value is created in the company, they will figure out right now that, okay, should we go for automation right now because it immediately gives us an advantage. And whether you're augmentation automation, and so an example would be whether you're someone who is the front end of bringing sales revenue in, or you're on the part, let's say a tech company, you're in engineering and product, you're building the products, the R&D that gives you that advantage, then you're either a premium or you're going to be a commodity based on what business value you bring in. Think of it as in healthcare. If you're a highly specialist doctor who, despite all the automation, brings in that human judgment and that intervention, and you are a key part in that industry, or based on what the business revolves around, then you're going to be a premium. But if you're part of something that becomes commoditized because it's been figured out with AI, a lot of diagnostic services right now are in danger of this. You'd be more of a commodity. So with that, what does that mean? So when we put that in, it depends on which quadrant you lie in. Okay, so let's see how this plays out for different scenarios. So let's say you are on that extreme end of you are the impact on your job right now is at best AI is going to inform you, and your human judgment, your creativity comes in, your experience comes in, and by the way, for what you bring to the table is also what drives business value for the business you're in. That means you're untouchable. The human experience, human judgment is going to be the key part. Your goal. What if I is doing the thinking part for you, a good chunk of it, and you're still, regarded as premium? You will need to evolve. Major part of your role will have to be redesigned because you will have to learn with AI as a team member because it is going to learn from you as well and get better. And you will need to evolve to get better with using AI and becoming a better artist or player with AI. And if you are in a premium category right now, but your role is getting automated, it means funds over. That doesn't mean like this is it. What it means is if the business starts seeing that this is how we bring in top line revenue and how we produce products and we go to market, if that we can do that really well without having to pay you a lot of premium, it means that pays are going to go down. You may not be able to demand that kind of a premium because the perceived value is there. Now, that doesn't mean it's ending. It means that you will have to figure out around this entire sort of a dial, where do you move and how do you move yourself, try to move yourself to be either in the middle or even further left to be untouchable. Similarly, you are perceived as a commodity in the role that you do. But you are still required. And I see a lot of, this noise out there about accounting and finance that all accountants are going to go away. They're not. There's a lot of judgment out there. There's a lot of issues. If you look at what's happening with that profession, there's a lot of experience and sound judgment that needs to be put into play. You're going to be safe, but you're going to be stuck because there's going to be lot more pressure because you're seen as a commodity. The businesses are going to be leaders are going to be like, listen, AI is doing this for everyone else. For you, just cut costs. Just cut costs. So you're always going to be under this pressure. You're going to be in what I call a commodity trap. And if you happen to be in the assist side of things, where you are treated as a commodity and AI is doing a major part to assist you, and you're there to supervise and make final decisions, either because the compliance requirements are there or because just the way the risky nature of the business of what you produce is there, that you have to have some human intervention, more of like a CYA. You're in an efficiency trap. You will have to be constantly be trying to be more and more efficient and try to always show that you're more efficient. And then lastly, game over. Your commodity and it's getting automated. Game is done for you. Now that may mean that may happen, can move to low cost locations, which is fine. Like that's how the whole world, connected world is going to operate business. My goal is to give you this map to figure out, okay, what are the different zones and where can you travel from one to another? And we're going to see how this plays out. So to give you an idea how this is already happening is we see that with companies that are AI native. This was a great post by Grant Lee. So let me zoom in. Okay. So Grant Lee, he is the co-founder and CEO of Gamma. If you don't know, Gamma is this viral, really crazy, good tool for creation, for collaboration. I won't go into much detail, but you can check it out. This is one of the fastest growing tools and companies that has done really well. He made this post a couple of months ago on his LinkedIn. Really loved it. Definitely give him a follow. And he talked about, how New York Times profiled a startup with 28 employees serving about 50 million users. And that company is them. And, where everyone talks about, raising massive funding, hiring a lot of employees and worrying about profitability later, like that's been the sort of the playbook for most startup companies. They did it differently because they embraced these maps that I was going through around, okay, where is the future headed? What is the kind of work that we need for us to scale? Do we go to these current jobs, or we get people in who are flexible and can go through cross domain and pollinate across cross domains, and we can help them build and play with AI. So we have the new age employee, and he covers that. He actually gives very generous details about how his team is set up, how his team leverages AI, and something interesting that he mentions. Let me zoom out. Is, this is post about this. So I think it's just with a handful of people, they can fit in a small restaurant. What he's doing is, he gave out examples when their PM needs better analytics. They don't need to file a ticket and say, hey, someone else will go build it. They'll go play with AI and build a system that can help them get that information. All right. That works for the level of scale, of course, and that company. There's still a huge scale still, right, with the kind of users that they have. Similarly, the marketing lead. Right now, companies could be saying, well, marketing is done. If you look at that spectrum that I put up, no, it's like, all right, well, that doesn't mean they're done. It means that they'll expand to do other domains as well. This is where reality hits. You will you will have to learn different domains using AI, depending on where you fall in the spectrum. Again, of where the business value is and how AI impacts what you do. So is market lead going out looking at customer data? Similarly, design team, they can wait for someone to design a prototype. They went in and started designing prototypes. And so they are bringing in young people as well as experienced people in as well. And the idea is that, this is a key statement he makes. The most valuable employees aren't specialists who excel in narrow domains. They're resourceful problem solvers who continuously expand their capabilities. This is great. Now, if you are a specialist in a domain that is highly valued for business purposes, and you're in a domain where AI, you're not adding on to AI is going to add on to you, make you better. That is key. That is high value. And if not, and that's not a lot of people are going to be in that category. But if you're not, then you have to evolve. And now, okay. Now, similarly, on the bottom quadrant that you saw where we talked about game over, fun, and then on top right as well, like fun is over, is because, yes, this is going to drive down salaries as well. It is going to have impact. And there are inequities that get created based on where you fall in that map, and it's up to you how you can plan to choose and go which part of that map. This is the most recent Wall Street Journal report where the US economy grows for rich and not for poor. It was covered in recent LinkedIn news, but this is the chart, right, that Wall Street Journal produced. This is the two-speed economy is back, right? You have people who are higher earning. You've seen over the year their earnings go up and lower for those who are in the lower income category. So where you lie on this map doesn't mean you're stuck or static. It is you can move around. And I think that is where we have the opportunity of what we could do with AI, based on, what's the impact on our domain, and then what industry business are we playing in right now. So if not, we're going to see a lot of inequity that come in, that as people get shifted more towards this right side to automation, and if you don't catch up, there is going to be an inequity created. So what could you do about this? And Shujat, let's give some concrete examples. So let's go. Let's start with sales. We are going to get better AI, but let's look at right now where we are over the next 2-3 years based on what AI already can do. So if you're in sales right now, think about, lead qualifications, crafting up proposals, doing demos, contracts, doing forecasting and planning analysis, depending on the level of analysis that you need, can be done by AI, can be automated. It is being automated. You're seeing day in, day out new automation services coming around this. Where AI does a good chunk of the work and then requires your judgment, you have in the middle, like, looking at market research data and then figuring out, okay, how do we make sense out of it? But the crunch of the computation done by AI, nurturing leads, connecting with people digitally, and then seeing, okay, which are more high quality leads, and even generating leads as well. And where the human value gets added is where you think about customer relationships, spending more time with the customer, understanding their pain points, doing pursuits with high value customers as well, and even opportunities that are blue ocean opportunities. Because again, AI would have helped you with the analysis. And now you go in and say, all right, you know what? No one's looking at this. Everyone's playing checkers. I want to go play chess, or vice versa. And then even closing the deal using that human connection. Because end of the day, sales is a one-to-one person decision. It is a personal decision. Add that lens of where the business value is being created, if sales is the main area. So again, if you are in a professional services business that where sales and it's that people interaction, B2B or B2C, is the key part of what gets money in, you will be the salesperson will be treated as a premium versus a commodity. Get software development, tech. In tech, this is the most expensive resource. Almost every company, I would argue, right now is a tech company. That is who we are, right? Whether we like it or not. And one of the most expensive talent you're going to get are the tech folks. In there right now, what we're seeing is mostly, AI can do a lot of the stuff that is sort of grunt work in software development, like testing, some deployment, checking for bugs, monitoring and feedback. And then even where it can help you uplift, like these sort of things within the assist portion, it's for boilerplate coding right now. It is helping you with requirements gathering, helping with communication, but still not there. It is used to speed up so that, more seasoned developers can think about design, architecture. They actually spend more time with product and design and understand, what is a customer pain point? What are we designing for, rather than trying to run for, all the other pains that they see as part of coding and development. And we see a lot of noise about, all right, what's happening with engineering? Let's put AI in. You're seeing tech companies using this faulty productivity measure of how much AI are you using, and they're tracking that. Why? Like, it should be about not just how much AI you're using. It should be about, okay, what value are you creating using AI, and what can you learn from it? What can you experiment from it? And when I talk about, you can figure out where you are in the spectrum and how much time you have. Let me give you some research examples. Okay. So this is a report. Okay. So this is a report done few years back. I've leveraged it when I was looking at what's the impact on software development a couple of years ago. And as AI was getting hot, and of course, it's going to get hotter now. This is a report around the time spent by software developers. You can check the report here. It is leveraged. I've seen with other multiple tech companies that I've talked to as well. This has been, well regarded between the development teams. And an interesting thing that they did was, and I'll scroll it down to you, is this table. And I will zoom in here. So what we're seeing here is they looked at where developers are spending most of their time. And I've also personally validated with different tech companies around this, and it's well within the ballpark. And while, this, you think about that inform, assess, do spectrum. And right now, someone could be selling you, well, AI can do all the coding for you. And tech companies are asking, how much AI are you using for coding? Thing is, this of the time spent by software developers, the time actually spent on coding is 15%. In best case, it has been 18%. Worst case, it's been lower. So let's say median, you're getting to 15%. So okay, it's 15% of the time. Rest of the time, you have about, so if I add these up, this is about close to uh, about like 40 to 50%. That time is then you have bug fixing, you have testing, reviewing code, documentation, working with requirements back and forth with your, what the end customer wants and then the intermediaries want. And then here's the interesting part. There's the collaboration heavy activities like meetings, emails, mentoring people, your networking, building relationships. That is about close to 37%, one third of their time. And then when you add further, there's close to about like what, another 15%. So it's around like, learning, administrative tasks, other, stuff that, life comes up, setting up, your tech debt and your infrastructure. So you're about like a major chunk of your time is spent in collaboration and other activities. The development heavy activities, even within those, only 15% is really being spent on coding. The rest is around bug fixing, testing, specification. What does this mean? Right? It means that right now, if you're a seasoned software developer, you would be not too worried about, hey, is AI doing the code is going to mess with me? No. There are a lot of other things that are in play. Now, leaders may be making the wrong decision under this AI hype without realizing this. And you as a developer can start thinking around, where can I use AI right now to get rid of the grunt work testing, bug fixing? Where can I use it to take out a lot of this waste around collaboration, heavy activities? But can I use that time then to go heavy into architecture, more complex coding, and think about better solutions that we haven't thought about before? It's not just about doing more with less, it's about going further. And I know right now we're in this mad rush, but goes for the companies and the leaders as well. But most leaders will not get this. But you can stand out and buy yourself more time by using AI where you can to give you that lift. And also knowing that, yeah, right now the job market is bad for many reasons that I explained in my first video. It is right now not because AI can do the coding for you. Because even if it did, engineers aren't really spending that much time. And this is not just this report. Let me show you another report. This is again, this is not a research report necessarily. Maybe I found this through some research, but I wanted to see, like, are we seeing anything in the industry being published? So I am with very when industries like publish if they have vested interest in it. So I haven't done full due diligence on this source, but I don't see is anyone else commenting around this. And this is another company that did this analysis around software developers and also found that about 52 minutes per day, software developers are spending, on coding, and about like 4 hours, which is around what is 4 hours. You're getting to about like 10%, just between 10 to 15%. So this matches up. So we're seeing that in the industry, people are looking at this as well. So I'll take another example, marketing and customer service. Again, this is already in play that you're seeing. And this is where I think it's the low hanging fruit where companies are jumping in because they can immediately get a solution. It's easier to get it done. So we already see AI jumping into chatbot assisted service, right? Looking at, digital marketing campaigns, doing experimentation, but where it would assist is more like, it will, if it's more high risk, you won't just expect the chatbot to solve all the solutions. You want to have a human intervention for more high tier, more complex issues, interact with the customers, even around content strategy, brand strategy, the market research. You don't just want to rely on what AI is pumping out right now. You want to work with it. But you know that as this AI gets better, your role is going to be how do you get better as an artist playing with AI? Else AI is going to take over your part of the role. And then more where we're using Inform is where we're thinking about like broader strategy. What is our marketing strategy? How do we even go into like more premium services so we can charge more? That is where the human judgment comes in. And right now that's on the Inform side of the house. Okay, so getting back to this chart again, based on, where your domain impact is going to be and where you lie as a premium or commodity can have an impact. We are already seeing, I think, that a move for people to realize that if they are in people management roles, we're seeing a shift from management to more IC. We're seeing this push for bureaucracy being reduced. And, a major indicator is software developer in tech because that's where the focus is from an investment perspective. This is a report from Signal Fire. They've done a comprehensive report on major tech companies with about 1,000 plus employees, including FANG, Plus, as well as other companies in tech, not just FANG, around engineering roles. So they excluded interns, contractors, and analyst roles. And what they looked at over the years was, so this chart is around the IC to manager ratio. So IC is a individual contributor to manager. 10 years ago, we were around about just under 6 for each manager. So for 6 individual contributors, let's say in engineering, you had a manager helping them, guiding them, mentoring them, doing all kinds of other stuff that we looked at around the bulk of the activities that spend around requirements gathering and communication and collaboration and all that. And over the years, this has been constantly been increasing, which means there's been more and more ICs have been added to managers. Now, it could be for many reasons that you have this growth in software development and you have fewer people who are managers who are capable of a manager, all of that. But I started seeing this during the pandemic as well, even before AI, that every time, engineering managers, right, and across tech companies, when we talk to each other, we realize that engineering managers were asking to go back to becoming individual contributors because they realize that, they've got more out of building something, and that is more long-term fulfilling as well. And just, pandemic gave a lot of wake-up call to a lot of people. But just over the last 2 years, you see this spike. Now, part of the spike is because there's this jump from leaders to get rid of bureaucracy, get rid of layers. Now it has tons of issues. Adding more people adds more stress on the manager. It also makes it more difficult to get a lot of work done. For some, it works. So it depends on the company's context. But I also see this as an indicator where I am seeing, again, anecdotally, when I talk to people, this is not the case everywhere, that there are managers who are moving to IC roles as well, because, again, they're realizing what they could do with AI, where this is headed, and they'd rather be on the side where they can be more on that premium and then high augmentation side, where they can demand, that human judgment that AI can't catch up with, and they get further and further and go even deeper and deeper with it. I'm already seeing with senior ICs who were sitting in big tech companies who were hesitant of using AI on their jobs or acknowledging that AI is helping them because there was a fear that they might get laid off. But they went in and did their startups, and in their startups, they're loving playing with AI because the lift that they get, they're like, I can get AI to do the boilerplate code. It does this while I'm sleeping. But I do know that even though if I was an engineering leader, I need to get back into building and development. So this is a indicator, I think, that you're going to have a lot more IC or people leave corporate and become solopreneurs, which you're already seeing in there. So I wanted to share that. This report is Model Evaluation and Threat Research. It's a nonprofit. They've been doing some incredible work around AI research, the capabilities, looking at AI R&D. And this is their work is leveraged by whenever an AI company like Chat GPT, OpenAI, Claude, when they publish new models and they say we're looking at benchmarks, they've leveraged some of their reports as well, conveniently when it's helped their benchmark when they call them out. So METR published this very good recent report. The report is called Measuring the Impact of Early 2025 AI on Experienced Open Source Developer Productivity. What they did was, so they looked at what different forecasters and developers self-reports that you've seen around, oh, is AI making me go faster or slower? What they did was they did a random RCT, which is a randomized controlled trial, right? Is more legit, I believe. And they said, okay, let's see what actually happens when people are using AI. And what they found was, so on this chart, let me zoom in a bit. You can see the full paper on their site. What they found was that, economic experts, their forecast is that AI is going to speed up for like open source developers by 30 to 50%. Machine learning experts said, our forecast is going to be less, but still, give or take a few, 32, let's say 45%. Then you have developer forecast growing steady. And they're like, oh, we played with it. We feel like this really gives me a bump between 10 to 30%. And then after they did their studies, they realized, oh, well, our estimate is still going to be 10 to 30%. But they actually observed that it slowed developers down. Now, this is interesting. This doesn't mean that others are lying and others are not. No, I think what this shows you, remember, we have the worst of the AI right now. And what this means is that even while using AI, because the overall system of work has not changed, how we collaborate, how we gather requirements, how do we figure out, how do we figure out the politics of things, how do we communicate that, and even as we learn with AI, it's going to take us some time because we have to fix a lot of the output that is coming in. So it is going to slow you down. But those who've played with it in different contexts have realized that it does. They expect this, it will make them go faster. Now, it's not because there's a cognitive dissonance, but it is that as you play with it, it does help you go slower. But you realize that, okay, if you're the right person who's built perspective and know your craft, you will also start realizing that, okay, where can I really use it where it can help me save time? So remember that chart I showed about where percentage of the time, bulk of the time developers are spending? So imagine this, right? That could be applied to almost every domain. Be like, all right, I get it. For coding, it may not be getting me to get faster, but what it could do is can take away a lot of the other work that prevents me from doing my main work. It can help me go faster and can get me some of the basic stuff done so that I can think about more deeper stuff. I can take more experiments. I can do more I can break through things and design stuff that may not work, but it won't fail. It won't cause a customer failure. I can do more exploration while using this. So I think this is interesting as well. And this again is a reminder that do not be daunted by the map I showed. You have time. you have time to go play with AI and figure out where you fall in your exposure. So let's get back to the three questions that we're answering in this series on how do we navigate AI disruption. We talked about should I, could I, would I. In this video, we're talking about the could I. And for could I, we said there are three factors to assess: looking at your domain's exposure to AI, then looking at your company's AI adoption model, then looking at your own uniqueness. Now, in this, we covered your domain exposure, right? And we realized we showed that map. Now, other factor that plays into it is your company and overall industry. How are they adopting AI? Because that will define the probability of the possible scenarios that played out in your domain's exposure, how quickly and when and if they play out. A key part is your company's AI adoption model. That is key. That gives you an idea of the probability. And then we're going to talk about your uniqueness, which goes into can you improve your chances and can you increase the probability for yourself for where you want to go. All right. So on your company's AI adoption model is a very fascinating research. It's a fascinating research. Let me zoom in. It is, so again, also a proud Wharton alum. So this is Karthik Sanagar. He's a Wharton professor. I presented this some time back, but it's him and Deawan Ahan. Hopefully I got that name right. It's around designing human and generative AI collaboration. And what they looked at, so we looked at this software development example in detail. So I wanted to look at something else. I think this is a very good paper to give you a glimpse of how we plan out for where the impact is going to be. They looked at multiple models between human and AI collaborating together around a whole workflow of creative writing. So think about like ideation, outlining, drafting, finally editing, and producing something out there for creative writing. So one model where AI did the work and human confirmed the output. There's one model where AI did some of the work, but human element of creativity and their judgment was played a major part in it. Right? They had the freedom to express their creativity versus the human confirmation. They were mostly just reviewing AI's work. And then there was one where it's like co-pilot, right? AI and human just working together in parallel. And they also looked at when AI wasn't used at all. So some very fascinating things found, and I think this report is important for multiple reasons. Number one, it gives you an idea around how to think about your workflow, how to break it apart, and then think about where the AI adoption model is going to happen, and think about how your company is adopting, and you'll have an idea around are you going to have a good time or a bad time with this. So what they found was, so they looked at completion times, they looked at the diversity of sort of creativity that came out of it. They looked at the end satisfaction as well of the human playing with it. They also looked at the skills mismatch for people who are labeled as highly skilled as writers versus those who are not. And with different models, does it reduce their gap or not, or does it increase their gap? Does it uplift people's skills, or does it make people less skilled as well, which is an issue with AI. So what they found was that regardless in all the models, in a model where AI was used versus AI was not, did way better. They found that in across all the models where AI was used versus not, it delivered better times. So you were faster in getting things done. However, how that AI and human collaboration was designed defined the quality of output. It defined the user satisfaction. It also looked at the diversity of like creative output that you can come up with. So you can create more unique stuff, and also looking at the skills mismatch. What they found was that while using AI, it uplifts those who are low skilled to up levels their quality of output. But if the human does not have autonomy to go and express their creativity, but they're only there to just review and confirm what the AI produced, for those who are highly skilled, right, it didn't really further increase that, right? It sort of like closed the gap between the highly skilled and the low skilled. But for the highly skilled, it reduced the satisfaction. The diversity of output wasn't that great. Now, when they were given full freedom, they said, all right, use AI and your autonomy to be as creative. While it did uplift those who are labeled as lower skilled, it increased the gap for the highly skilled. Now that again goes back to the map that I showed earlier, that where do you want to play? Do you want to be in that spot of a golden zone where you're untouchable which you are. If you're highly skilled, you know your craft, you know your perspective. Your judgment is a critical part, not only of delivering the end business value, what needs to be produced, but in how it gets produced, it is key. So for you to create that gap from not getting to a part where you get commoditized, where it's the game's over for you, all fun is over for you, is to be really good in your craft, build perspective, and use AI so that you can add your creativity to it. So that's key. Also, because the diversity of genres that came up with, where the human had more control on on the creative output, was way better. And it's key that look at your workflow and see which part of the workflow where it will drive more satisfaction, has a higher chance of being more creative and getting better output. Plant AI in there accordingly so that the human has that autonomy. This is why your company's AI adoption model matters. While you can figure out where your domain's exposure is, the probability of that exposure happening. If your company, you're in an industry, decides that we're going to put AI in a way that the human has less intervention, that lower skilled workers, higher skilled, they all produce sort of like consistent output. And you're gonna not gonna have a great time. Your ability to stand out and be untouchable is going to be limited. You're not gonna create unique stuff. Your ability to become untouchable, be better with your perspective and using AI, is you're gonna have handcuffs on you for your company or your industry based on how they chose to adopt AI. So it is very key that if in your current space where you're in or where you're headed or the company that you want to go to, look at where the AI adoption is happening and the way they're treating it, because that will define how far can you go. And lastly, we talk about your uniqueness, right? Again, plays into this. Your domain's exposure, your company's AI adoption model, all of that combined, what do you bring to the table? What is your excellence? And I think that is key where whatever you are doing. And so whether you are a mid-career professional, 40 plus, thinking about, okay, does my experience matter? It does, as long as you are someone who thought about your craft and you're thinking about improving your craft using AI and playing with AI, but going deeper into that human judgment that you bring to the table. And if you're a Gen Z college student or you're early in career, the more you're thinking about, okay, well, how can I learn about that craft and that domain from these experts and reach out for mentorship? And then even use AI to learn about the fundamentals of that domain and then go build that ability, that taste, that judgment, that discernment as a human. But using AI, you do need that uniqueness that you bring to the table, because that is what's going to help you stand out and stay more relevant in there. Interstellar, one of the best movies, is one of the best ways what they've explained on where the future is going to be for AI and who really stands out and what do we need to value about human judgment and expertise. So for context, right, Matthew McConaughey, his character, he is a pilot who was trained in a previous generation. And the newer, he hasn't flown for a long, long time, and the newer generation is trained by AI simulations. They have to, they're trying to explore, figuring out to save humanity, where can they go and build life on another planet. Matthew McConaughey gets recruited by Michael Caine's character. He says, "You're the best pilot to take us on this unprecedented mission." He says, "You have pilots," and Michael Caine says in a very subtle way, "No, all of them are trained on simulation. We need a real pilot, and that's you." And then there's this famous docking scene, which has this amazing musical score around it. Highly recommend it. It's a pivotal moment that demonstrates Cooper's exceptional skill as a real world pilot, proving he is superior to those trained only by simulation. It contrasts his experience with, the disaster failure by the others who have been trained by just using simulation. So what basically happens is that the major space station is sent into a rapid out of control spin as it plummets towards the black hole. And the only way is for him to dock his damaged spacecraft with this spinning station, right, at the same time, connect together, and then be able to get it out of that gravitational force. So the stakes are that they must precisely match this huge ship's velocity and rotation to dock with it while being thrown by intense gravitational forces, and a single miscalculation or hesitation will lead to the destruction of both crafts. So, what Matthew McConaughey's instincts show up as a real world pilot? He orders his robot to initiate a manual spin of a small spacecraft to match the large spacecraft's rotation. The computer is telling him it is not possible. And he responds with the iconic line, "No, it's necessary." As the ship spins, Anne Hathaway's character's head is whipped around by the G forces and she blacks out. Cooper, however, knows through his training, he flexes his muscles in a very subtle way and he prepares his body, his cues, to keep himself conscious till this is done. You know, uh, his manual maneuver, which is an impossible task according to the computer, is successful. He catches the spinning station, stabilizes it, saving the ship and his crewmate. But his scene validates the film's theme that human instinct, resourcefulness, and a connection to the physical world are irreplaceable, even by the most advanced technology. And I think this is one of the best depictions of how we think about how AI is going to be deployed. And if it's deployed in a way where the humans have little say, they're not going to get augmented by AI, they will be augmenting AI. Why your experience, your craft, and being good at your craft, you can use AI to get even better and learn how to be an artist with AI while keeping that instinct, that domain expertise that you have. Yeah, I think this is beautifully captured in this movie. So with that, in the next video, I'm going to talk about, all right, having understood and using a framework to assess that whether you have AI exposure, how do you plan for it, and how do you set up your unique perspective so you can create your chances, increase the probability and the possibility of you being able to be an untouchable person with AI for your future relevance. We're going to get into tactics for what you could do. So with that, end of this video, look forward to the next one. Please leave any comments and definitely like and subscribe. That's the only signal I know that this is going well. And with that, Shujat out.